Testing. Alright. Pie time. I like pie. You like pie? Raspberry Pi is good. Raspberry Pi on a microhawk is even better. Blueberry Pi is pretty good though too. But, alright. So last time I showed you how to set up the operating system and flash the micro SD card. Also put in some configuration so that we're going to be able to have remote access to it in the field. So what I've done is I've got it connected to my laptop and to the second USB port on the Raspberry Pi. But we haven't achieved the connection yet, and the Wi-Fi has not been turned on yet. So that's what we're going to do in this video, is show you how to actually get onto this one, what software you need to install, what are the configurations that need to happen, and ultimately get this on a wireless network. So let's start that now. So the first thing we need to do is we need to go grab another piece of software. And this software is called Putty. Putty's, it's kind of like a de facto standard. There's a lot of these out there, but we're just going to use this one. You'll see a lot of information, and there's some other ones out there. I'm going to use the 64-bit installer version, but you could just also pull down one of these EXEs if you really wanted to. And what Putty is it's basically a secure shell terminal, and this allows you to connect to remote computers and systems to be able to get a command line on that machine. And that's what we're going to use to get to the Raspberry Pi. So with those configurations that we added in there, we basically have turned the USB port into a network device. But there's no IP address associated to it that we know of at this point. We can't even see it. There's no display or anything on this thing. So how do we find this thing? Well, by default, the host name of the Raspberry Pi, or the machine name, is Raspberry Pi. So what we can do is we can go ras, if I can type, berry pi dot local. The local is saying that it's connected to my local machine. And then I can hit OK, hit open. And you can see we got a connection, and we got a security alert. Now, don't freak out. This is normal. Whenever you connect to a remote device via SSH, the first thing it'll do is it's going to check to see if you connected to it before. If you haven't connected before, they're gonna exchange what's called the fingerprint. And this fingerprint is so that in the future, if you connect to it, it's going to be able to look at all the different kinds of serial numbers and different things, MAC addresses and stuff on the machine. It creates a unique ID and stores it. And this way, if you connect to a different piece of hardware and it has the same network name or URL, it'll say, hey, something's awry, these things don't line up. And then you can choose to go and clean your fingerprint keys, or ignore it. So we're going to go ahead and set yes on this. Now the default username is Pi. I'll go ahead and make this large. And then the default password is Raspberry. That is RASPBERRY. And we hit enter. And we're logged in. Now, since Raspberry Pi and these username and default passwords are known worldwide, they can be a big source for hackers. And if they find one on a network and stuff, they'll quickly try to get on there and put a rootkit on it and gain control over it. It's not on the network yet, so it's safe at this point, but since we put it on Wi-Fi, you expose yourself. So what we want to do is we want to change the password, and that's called passwd. Then it's going to ask you for the default password or the original password, and then you can give it a new password, whatever you want it to be. Okay, now just to show that the password has changed, let's exit out and let's start PuTTY again. Now, one of the things you can also do is if you don't want to type in this Raspberry Pi every time, what you can do is type it out one time, give it a name here, like you can see I have Microhawk in there. You type a name here like Microhawk, and then you hit save, and then that way the next time you come around and you want to log into this device, I'll show you. I can click on here and I can hit load, and I have all my defaults ready to go. So now I'm going to log back in. Pi is my user, but now I have to use my new password. And if I did it right, we should be able to get in. There you go. Alright, so now the next step. We want to get this on a wireless network, and we don't know what stations we have, and we don't even know what we got. So the first thing I want to do is I want to run this command. It's called ifconfig. ifconfig will list out all the information about your network devices, and here you can see there's the USB interface, and it's giving you an IP address. Now this IP address will change a lot, so don't rely on it. Use the raz.link connection for it. But here's my wireless interface, and it's not connected to anything. So that's the thing that we want to get connected to, some kind of station access point. But what access points are available? Let's find out. So we can use this command that's called WIW list, and then we're going to put in that interface name, which in here is WLAN 0, and then we're going to say scan. Now when I do this, you'll see it just spewed out a whole bunch of information. This is all the real stuff about a wireless. So what I want to do is, because I just want to see the SSID so I can find a device, I'm gonna type in bar, which we call pipe, grep SSID. Now grep is a searching tool that allows you to search through files and stuff for text, and it'll tell you where it is and what files it belongs in. But you can also feed stuff that's being outputted from the console into it, and that's what we're going to be doing here. And we're saying look for the SSIDs, and there you go. Now I just have a very small list of what I'm focused on, and I can see there's a few options here, and I'm going to choose ground, which is a ground station that I'm building, and I'll show you guys in an upcoming video on how to build your own wireless hotspot so that you can have your Microhawk connected to a ground station out in the field, and the ground station's connected to your phone, so then you have internet all the way through to the Microhawk, but also have the ability to extend the range of the Wi-Fi. Okay, so now what we need to do is we're going to go into this other app called Raspberry Config, and you're going to spend a lot of time in here. Anytime you want to change some basic configurations like localization, we can do that right now. So we can go into localization, and we can pick our time zone. And see, right now it's defaulted to Europe, but I'm in the US, and I'm actually on the Pacific Ocean. So that just set my time zone. Now you can also use this for like interface options, SSH, I2C, and all these different things. This is where you would turn on your camera and whatnot, and your GPIO. But now let's get back to what we're focused on, the network options. So we want to initialize the WAN. So I need to pick the country again. Now what this is doing is this is setting what frequencies are allocated for your Wi-Fi. Different countries have different ones, and this tells it, hey, these are where you're legally allowed to run. So I'm going to connect to that ground SSID that you saw. You want to make sure you highlight the OK before you do this, before you go to the next one, and then we're going to type in the password for this ground station. Okay. And now if I do an if config, you can see it's not connected even though we told it to do. So what we want to do is we want to do a sudo reboot. And what happened is we killed the Pi, and so you lost your connection. And you got to give it a little bit of time to reboot. These Pis aren't necessarily super fast. Like 90 seconds. That was too soon. Another trick you could do is if I do the command prompt, I can do ping raspberry pi.local and start pinging it. And you can see here it's talking now. So with that being said, I should be able to connect to this guy if this is spelled correctly. And it looks like it is. There we go. Alright. Type in your new password. And if everything went correctly, and it did not, of course, my ground station might not be working correctly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it to one of my other networks. Don't freak out if it doesn't work the first time. It can be a little temperamental at times. And there we go. It connected. So I have an IP address. What I can do now is we'll start a new session. And I'm going to put in that wireless IP address. And if you see here, here's my WLAN. And you can see that it now that it has IP information in there, and I can take that IP and type it in. And you can see it's asking me because this is a new interface, so it's saying, hey, what's up? It's okay. And then I can type in my password. Alright. And if I do an if config, you can see I'm on that same machine. So now I can actually close this. I have the IP address, and what I could do now is I could now disconnect my Pi, right now I can't do it because that's what's powering the whole thing. But if I had my battery connected in, or I was connected into the first port to power it, I could then work with this wirelessly. So what that allows me to do things is, this one doesn't have a GPS on it right now. I'm doing other stuff, so it's disconnected. But in order to do some testing and stuff, I'll put it in the windowsill, or so I can get view of the sky and have my GPS on there, and then I can actually then wirelessly work on the device. Now that also allows you to do some nice things. This is now field maintenanceable, meaning that I have my laptop out in the field. I don't have to carry keyboards and mice and monitors to connect to do anything. I can just connect in via the USB cable and be able to start programs, make edits, change, debug things when I'm out there flying at the flight field. And so that's, now this guy's actually on a network. So that's it for right now. Upcoming video, I'm going to show you actually how to load some software with Python to be able to access the telemetry information on the flight controller and the GPS, and be able to get that up into the Pi so that you can do things. That's coming up shortly. Until next time, happy flying! And Pi time is a great time. Bye.